Welcome to the Happy Disruptors podcast. If you're a creative thinker with an unconventional approach to your industry, you just might be a happy disruptor. Join your friends at the Great Outdoors Foundation for honest conversations about tackling critical issues like conservation with an uncritical disposition. If you like to smile and get things done, this is the podcast for you.
Hello, and welcome back to the Happy Disruptors podcast. I'm Katie.
And I'm Hannah.
And today we have a very special guest joining us, our first out-of-state guest,
Wow.
Mr. Steve Whitbecker, the Chief Sustainability Officer for CoBank. Steve, we're so glad to have you here.
All right. Thanks, Katie. As Katie said, I'm Steve Whitbecker, Chief Sustainability Officer at CoBank. I've been in this role now for, feels like forever, but actually just 3.5 years. I was the Chief Auditor before that, and it's been a lifetime in public accounting before joining CoBank 14 years ago in total. Yep.
Very good.
I'm a Hawkeye native, I have to say that. Not native, I actually went to born and raised in Illinois. Went to school at Iowa, and I graduated in late 90s.
Nice.
Got another Hawkeye.
Yeah, a transplant, but we'll take you. We'll accept Illinois as a neighbor. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So CoBank plays a substantial role in the U.S. Farm Credit System. Can you explain that ecosystem to our listeners and how that naturally integrates with sustainability and conservation?
Yeah. CoBank is a proud member of the Farm Credit System. You know, Congress created us 109 years ago to support rural American agriculture. What a fantastic thing to do. We've got the best customers anybody could ever hope for. In terms of the sustainability, again, CoBank specifically finances co-ops, agribusinesses across rural America, both on the ag side, and then we have a whole rural infrastructure portfolio. We also support affiliated associations on the wholesale lending. That lending's direct to farmers. But to answer your second question, we're just uniquely positioned. We're a member-based organization, so our customer success is our success. And I feel farmers are the best stewards for the land. They've been doing sustainability for really generations upon generations. These farms continue to be passed down to their heirs. And again, I think they're good stewards of the land and do a fantastic job. And with us being a finance provider to rural America, we've been financing sustainability for literally 109 years. So we're really proud of what the American farmer does for providing food in abundance for the entire world.
Mm-hmm. Can you break down just a little bit the co-op model for those who aren't familiar with it, who are maybe outside of the ag sector?
Yeah, so we're member owned. So our borrowers are our customers, which is pretty unique. You think if you're a publicly traded company like commercial banks, the shareholders own the company, and they can come and go. Where we retain earnings to run our businesses, but we pass on our income in the form of patronage to those member owners. So again, their success is our success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those co-ops are then working directly with the farmers. Talk about that relationship a little bit and how your influence can play such a critical role in kind of delivering financial solutions to farmers.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a complex of co-ops, right? We're lending to co-ops. Think about farm and grain supply co-ops. They also have member owners. So, those farmers that look for ag inputs, they're getting those from farm and grain supply companies. Those tend to be co-ops. We're financing those co-ops. And again, the governance structure, so those member owners are on the board of the co-ops. Our member owners are on our board. Mm-hmm. So you have the governance structure, you have that shared success, and all those things that, again, I think it's the best corporate structure you can possibly have.
Mm-hmm. And how is CoBank using its relationship to the agriculture sector to advance sustainability?
Yeah, it is the relationship. So again, when we started our sustainability journey almost 4 years ago, we what does a mission-based cooperative do to support their customers? So we knew the mission was always going to be the same. We're going to support rural America. Again, Congress created us to do so. We've done it fantastically for a long, long time. We want to continue that. So we'll keep the customer and the mission at the center of that journey. But then we did realize our customers would be on individualized journeys in sustainability. Some would be quicker, early adapters. Others may take a little bit more time. So we wanted to be flexible, be part of the solution, not the problem. And I think we've done a nice job. We produced our first sustainability report a little over 3 years ago. And I think there were a lot of people nervous of what we were going to do. You saw commercial banks signing net zero alliances. That's not what we wanted to do. We believe financing that transition to a more resilient future was the right way to do it. And again, I've not heard one member owner complain that we've taken this role and we've done a really nice job of, being that center point in the ecosystem, the food ag ecosystem. So you think about the CPG firms that are looking to invest in their supply shed, which a lot of that is in agriculture. So we're a good partner to them, build the relationships, and bring our customers to the table for economic opportunities as they move forward in their journeys.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's mission, right? You're very dedicated to the ag industry. What specifically about sustainability? Why does CoBank take such a big role and take such pride in sustainability and make it a priority for the organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I give my CEO, Tom Halverson, a lot of credit. He championed something that maybe wasn't going to be the popular thing, at least initially. And we had the support of our board. So between that support, creating the position, having a very small, lean team, we think a resilient borrower is a good borrower.
Mm-hmm.
Again, back to that shared success. So we want them to be thinking about the economic opportunities, more resiliency in their land and the quality of that land and the environment around that. Because without that, they can't be successful either. And I do believe they realize that. Again, the amount of production or yield on an acre of land today with less inputs is phenomenal. So they have been doing this, but that story needs to be told. And I think we can also be a good conduit to share that with the broader stakeholder group.
So you have mentioned this whole system. I'm going off script a little bit, but I want to dig into this. You've got CoBank at the lending position. You've got co-ops in sort of this middle position. They're providing services to individual farmers. Mm-hmm. And then you have the individuals, farmers, landowners, those who are making decisions about what they're implementing on the land. How have you seen the system and the delivery of conservation change, and what opportunities do you see there, just as the need for conservation at scale and pace becomes more and more prescient?
Yeah, that's a good summary of the farm credit system. Nice job. I would have to think that there's a role for finance here. I think we saw the government play an outsized role for a lot of years in the form of grants to create innovation and I guess momentum in the sustainability space. And I think that's fantastic. There is a role for government. I believe there's a role for government in the future as well. But as the current administration, we've retrenched a little bit, and I'm actually okay with that as well. We have a lot of debt in America, and as a taxpayer, I think the accountability of the area needs to be more than it was, and I think they have taken. Actually, I guess it just created an opportunity for the private sector to step up, and I'm seeing an outsized response from those organizations as well. So, and with ag, having probably just as much challenges on the emission side, but also a lot of opportunities for better health, better opportunities for sequestration with cover crop, no-till, that type of stuff. A lot in the dairy industry for different innovative ways to do manure management and feed additives and those types of things. So a ton of opportunities, ton of challenges, but I think it's coming together nicely in the world of private sector replacing a little bit of the void that the public sector has left.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about this, let's get into, maybe one of the solutions that CoBank has come up with, one of your tools in your portfolio that helps to address maybe, the pullback from federal, but how do we make this a system-wide approach while changing the bottom line of conservation and making it part of the business model? Do you want to talk a little bit about the project, the sustainability linked loan that CoBank did with Heartland Co-op?
Yeah, about just over a little less than a year ago, we closed a sustainability linked loan with Heartland Co-op. For those that don't know what that is, that's a loan that has KPIs, key performance indicators, that upon achieving those, there's an eligibility for a rate discount on the loan on a go-forward basis. It's all principle-based, very common in the marketplace, and again, it kind of creates that kind of upfront incentive to invest in resiliency and sustainability. In this case, it was a conservation program, both in-field and edge-field practices. And again, we learned a lot. I think, again, Heartland was an early adopter. That was our very first sustainability-linked loan. So we also learned a ton. We loved, the tool for being a way to support our customers beyond relationship opportunities. This is one that actually created economics for a borrower, which is fantastic. And then they were able to reinvest those resources into people and programs and awareness of their customers, which are those producers in Iowa.
Yeah, I think, Katie, this is like one of the things that I've been most excited about with CoBank and GOF and the partnership with Iowa. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it from like the most basic level, the co-op has an operational line of credit. They agree upon, indicators, key performance indicators, cover crops, education, no-till, things like that. Mm-hmm. If they meet that, they get a reduction on their loan. And then they're taking that and reinvesting it into conservation. Right. So their members are getting the assistance that's needed. And as member owners, they're getting the reduction in their interest rate, which impacts their bottom line. Mm-hmm. And so when you start to look at that, it starts to become a powerful tool and changing the way. It's now not just a grant, mm-hmm. right, where you have to make these deliverables. It's now part of how you do business. How do you see that change moving forward in financing? I think we've talked a lot this last day about how financing can be a powerful change. How do you see that moving forward?
Yeah, well, something that we haven't talked about is the partnerships there. So, I met you all just under a year ago, and we did some fantastic things on the Heartland job. We provided the financing. You provided some additional forms in the form of a grant. We had Environmental Defense Fund there to help establish those key KPIs, mm-hmm. making sure there are meaningful and measurable targets for the organization. But that's something that provided some economics. Again, I'm really proud of it. It's not to diminish the relationship or the tool, but I think there's more opportunities out there. So we have been exploring and using this as a base case of what we can do. And again, as I mentioned, the public sector is retrenching a little bit, and we still need literally trillions of dollars of investment over the globe in the next multiple years or dozens of years. And this isn't going to go away. This is an area that's going to require continued investment. So that's going to be a lot to ask for from financial institutions, because mm-hmm. it's not going to all be in the form of a grant. So we're looking at these blended financing solutions, which I'm super excited about. This is where potentially we could take some patient capital and combine it with our traditional financing, and that patient capital, catalytic capital, could be could absorb a potential loss in the event mm-hmm. of a default. And that for a bank, that provides us the ability to change our risk ratings and therefore create even more economics for borrowers. So again, it's going to take public, private, philanthropy collaborations to really make this happen. But I do believe there's a lot of opportunity. So so we have the SLL, the Sustainability Linked Loan. We actually have done green loans, and the difference between those two is the green loan is for use of proceeds. The Sustainability Linked Loan is for general corporate purposes. They can use that money for anything that they need to run their operations. Mm-hmm. But the blended financing that has some SLL, KPIs, it's a combination of both, but with, again, patient catalytic capital, it could generate multiples of the economics that we did with our first SLL. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So very exciting, very exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah. You mentioned a word that we're all thinking about in the day and age of climate change, and that is risk. How do you, as a lending institution, how do you see conservation of value as a value, not just from, this ethereal or hypothetical, but how is it used to literally de-risk the assets that you are helping to support through your lending?
Yeah, I use this word a lot. A resilient borrower is a good borrower. We used to use the word ESG. ESG is kind of taken a negative tone to it, but I believe we've been underwriting sustainability or ESG for a very long time. You think about if you're a good steward for your inputs, that creates efficiencies in how you run your business. If you're well governed, that's positive for a bank as well. So as you roll all that up, we're not implicit. We're not looking at ESG and when we're doing our underwriting, but honestly, since the beginning of time, I think banks have looked at those qualities. It does show up in your financials over a long period of time. So therefore, our more resilient, climate sensitive, well-governed organizations are getting better interest rates today. So this is it has been going on. We're just now being asked to do it in a more qualitative or quantitative way, and also measure it, and then have it show up in how you underwrite your lending. So different, but probably always was there.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, and I think the individuals and the organizations who are implementing these practices, they're seeing it in their yield, they're seeing it in the cost of their inputs for, they're no longer planting on ground that would be flooding, 7 out of 10 years or 9 out of 10 years. So have you been what kind of data are you capturing for some of these conservation mechanisms and anything you can report from like the sustainability reporting side of things?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's lots of questions within that question, and I think about, again, I do believe it shows up in their operations. They're resilient and they've been making these investments. They got better soil, you get better outcomes and yields, as you mentioned. So I'm just trying to think how I want to answer this question. I don't know. I kind of lost this one. You had so many questions in there. Fair. I think I lost.
I guess maybe any trends that you're seeing. You mentioned the qualitative and quantitative data that you're capturing based on these SLLs or green loans. Are there any trends in the data that you're noticing that could serve as proof points for this being effective?
Yeah. So I think the farmers have been on this journey for a very long time, and they're exceptional businessmen and women. So they know how to manage change. They can rotate crops. There's a lot of technology in ag. So so there's so many things that have been going on, and they've been adapting to the space. And as I said earlier, they're producing more on an acre today with less inputs. So it actually, I think the data would speak for itself and just yield. We mentioned this, what's being asked of agriculture, and as they do need to do things differently with maybe even fewer inputs, and maybe asked to sequester carbon with cover crop no-till, which also has some soil benefits. The science, I think, proves all that out. So in that combination, the farmer shouldn't have to bear the entirety of that cost. So that's where if you can bring other partners to the table to help with that, and that's CoBank's one of those parties. I think the CPG firms that are looking to invest in their suppliers, not only for their carbon goals, but also resiliency. They want those commodities in the abundance for the forever future. So that's just investing in your businesses. So sustainability is good business, and we recognize it as a lender, but I think they also recognize it to make sure those farms are in a position to hand down generation to generation. Again, I think they've done it. It's just going to continue to happen, and unfortunately, maybe we all need to talk about it. We live in a world of transparency that is unlike any other generations had to go through. So the farmers just need to tell their story, and again, I think they've got a great story to tell.
So do you have any, we're going off script again, but what is one of your favorite, stories to tell about this as you've been going through this the last 3 to 4 years?
I've seen a lot. Again, I grew up in rural America, a small town of 3,600 people, tiny. I drove across Iowa constantly. So I've seen ag forever, but I wasn't a farmer. I feel like now, being in this role, I've been able to go to farmers from all across the country, every commodity and all the geography. So again, CoBank operates in all 50 states. We literally finance every commodity you could think of. They're all doing really cool stuff. And there's tons of technology that's being utilized today that wasn't done back in the day. Even when we did our tour of the wetlands and some of the edge of field practices a few months ago, just looking at corn and the spacing and the yield, you could just see it was different. It's different corn today than what I grew
For
up
sure.
with. Hence the yield increases. You can just see it. But industries like dairy, dairy's got a huge challenge. They have methane and higher emissions than most, food production. But also they got a ton of opportunity. And I've gone to a farm in Indiana that's got 30,000 cows on 30,000 acres, and the amount of innovation on that farm is phenomenal. I'm a huge believer in this family. They're very innovative, and they've done really, really cool things, and it's just exciting to see. I'm very proud of American farmers with, the stewardship, the efficiency of food production, and I truly believe it's not any better anywhere else in the world. So,
Very cool.
Okay, you brought up the rest of the United States, and of course we're in Iowa right now, but I'm curious, how do you see the Midwest being an opportunity? We have outsized output. Maybe, I don't want to get this wrong, but I feel like California is probably up there with us, and probably Texas for some commodities, but the Midwest has an outsized impact on agriculture. How do you see opportunity for us to be a leader and an innovator in conservation where, we don't often get that moniker, I don't think.
I think Iowa's, again, I'm biased towards Iowa. My team accuses me that all the time, and I just say, yeah, you're right. I love Iowa. I do. I really do. I think Iowa is a leader. You think about the production of per acre. I don't think anybody else in this country is producing the abundance of corn and soybean at the rate that Iowa does. And some of it's the gift that God gave this land here that farmers have the pleasure of farming. So, but I think different geographies have different commodities and they have different challenges. I think California, you got the water. Water is probably the top thing that comes to mind when you're a farmer in California. But they have a hand they've been dealt, and they're doing a fantastic job, just like every geography and every commodity. But good question. Again, I'm biased towards Iowa, but I do believe all farmers and all ranchers across this country are doing a really nice job.
You can't.
But there's more work to have.
You can't pick favorites.
Not on camera.
Right.
So for you personally and for CoBank, what does innovation mean?
Yeah, I guess it's, for me in this space, again, technology innovation is a little bit different than sustainability innovation. And this is one where I'm like, let's just try stuff. Yeah. And that SLL was something that, we wanted to try, we wanted to learn from it. And I feel we have. Again, I think that's going to bridge us to these other innovative financial products. And, some people in this space, especially like sustainability, the expectations for perfection are really high. And I think that's unfortunate because when you try to solve something for perfection, it just stalls. And you think about trying to count molecules like carbon or nutrients that go into water. Yeah. If you need to be perfect, you're not going to be successful. I give Iowa State a little bit of credit. I don't do that very often, but there's great science that you can point to. And if you can look at the science that supports practices, let's just do that. And if we can get all of this directionally correct and learn from it, we can get to perfection, but we don't need to do that on the first try. So I guess with innovation, it's really about just being able to be flexible in your risk appetite, try, learn from it, iterate, and do better in the next round. And I think we've done that. I'm seeing that quite a bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting response from a former auditor.
True.
I did not think risk appetite would be something.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important, we have these conversations day in and day out with people on all spectrums of, the water quality, trying to solve the water quality. And I think perfection can sometimes prevent progress. Yeah. So I appreciate you saying that. And that's something. So how do you address that with your organization or with your partners? How do you get past that ideal of perfection and try to get us focused on progress?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was a good auditor because I could navigate the gray.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because we're all humans. We all make mistakes, and we can kind of, you want to have controls and processes to protect each other and your organization. So I always believe you can't be so rigid, and I can extrapolate that to this world and what we just talked about. It's about communicating and learning. Again, referencing those white papers that are out there that support the practice. And again, I even like the cover crop no still. I think there's it's not an immediate gain. You know, this is one where you do get some yield loss in those years 1 through 3 potentially before you're applying less inputs and you're getting some yield increases. You know, that's at least what the research says. So I believe the research, but every farm's going to be different, you know, with soil types and those types of things. So you got to be flexible. You've got to engage with the farmer. The farmers know this stuff better than we'll ever know it. You know, I'm never going to say I'm an expert, especially across all the commodities that we work with.
Yeah.
So I do tell, again, back to your question, I do tell people like me and my peers at all the CPGs and technology companies, governing bodies, to involve the farmer. When I first took this job 4 years ago, I think there was a void of that. They were only following the science and not talking to the farmer, and they were thinking, you know, you can do it. Why can't you do it? And there's probably a reason they can't do it. Again, they're good businessmen and women, and they do know what they're doing. So why not lever that expertise? And again, I think that was missing. But I've done it. I've done it. I walk the talk here. I do go out to the farmers and ranchers and learn from them, and I tell everybody to do that as well.
Yeah. I mean, we have this conversation all the time. There's science, which, you know, we trust to direct us, but then there's also the science of implementation.
Yeah.
And it's how do you take the science and put it in real world application? And that's a whole different study of practicality. So
Yeah, and the balance of pragmatism with, you know, in an ideal, if you're talking about lab conditions where everything is perfect, you can measure everything exactly as you want to.
And Mother Nature's a factor that you know, can throw all this into a whirlwind.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Steve, you've talked a little bit about the farmer relationship. We've talked about the co-op relationship, obviously the lending relationship, and we've kind of glanced, but we haven't gotten into it, but the government role in all of this. What is your response to someone who their perspective is, well, I as a taxpayer shouldn't be contributing to the investment. I'm not benefiting from the profits of this crop or of this product. What is your response, and what's sort of your perspective on the role of public-private partnerships?
Yeah, I'm a taxpayer. Yeah, I wanted my tax dollars to be used efficiently and effectively. And again, I think they have. Again, there's a role for government in a lot of things, including sustainability. And I can appreciate what the role of government's been for the last decade, and I think I can appreciate what it's going to look like for the next decade. And they created momentum. There's some science that came out of it. I think about the USDA grants. I think those were fantastic for many of our customers. I think those have been successful, and others that obviously weren't able to get off the ground. That's fine too. I think if it's good business, it's going to happen in any form or fashion. So I think the government has played a fantastic role, and now it's time for the private industries to step up and do some things as well. Because again, sustainability is good business. Again, I want people, planet, and profit to align, and I think we all need that. We all want that for taxpayer purposes, and it needs to make sense for producers as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is something that you wish everybody knew about conservation and agriculture? Yeah,
that's a great question, but I think I wish people could see what I've seen and what I've heard from farmers. I'm privileged in the fact that I've got that access to learn. And again, I've been able to carry the stories forward because they are phenomenal stories and they're very different. But again, I guess that's what keeps me going every single day, is knowing that I can help them, with the role I have here at the bank, tell the story. Hopefully I can do it through sustainability financing products. But it's that tremendous things that agriculture folks do for food security is national security, and again, I think we are better at it than anybody else in this world. And they are good stewards of the land. If I owned land, I'd put it in the hands of a farmer before anybody in an urban corridor for the most part.
Yeah. Very good.
Well, any last thoughts, Steve and Hannah? I feel like we've covered a wide spectrum of topics related to conservation financing, but anything we haven't covered that you feel like would be of benefit to the listener?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of cool stuff going on out there. Anybody that does watch this, I encourage them to go out there and start learning, be curious. We produce a sustainability report. Again, we're on our third one. Actually, we just published our third one. You want to learn more about CoBank or the Farm Credit System or what we're doing in sustainability, definitely go look at that. It's online.
Excellent. All right, we are going to wrap up the episode as we always do with our Let's Whiteboard It segment. So, Steve, next to you on the table, you'll see a whiteboard. And
you did not tell me about this, or was it in the instructions and I missed it?
It is on the fly because we've got to be innovators. No, we use whiteboards all the time. As I think CoBank, your crew they're big whiteboard fans. But our question for the day, and we will accept written or drawn answers.
Oh, geez.
In honor
Neither
of
of those are good in my handwriting.
the timeliness of this episode. What is your favorite food item to get from the Iowa State Fair?
So I do have to say, poor Steve has not had any fair food yet. We're going to fix that tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow.
I went to my first fair this morning. We had a bunch of cool meetings.
Okay,
I did not have time to eat.
We did not eat yet.
I saw it. I smelled it all.
That's horrible.
I heard good stories. Yeah.
Horrible that I
Maybe
asked you
what's
about
the
food.
one that you really want to...
Oh, what? Okay, yes. What's the one food that you're
Talked
most
about
looking
that pork
forward?
chop on a stick, cheese curds,
Lobster dog.
the Twinkie in there, like an Iowa Twinkie or something.
Yeah. It's fried.
No?
Yes.
Just any of those.
Any of those. And you can draw if you'd like any of those.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
I don't know how to draw that. Yeah, I'll try that pork chop.
So while Hannah is wrapping up, we've already tortured poor Steve enough. Remember to like and subscribe the Happy Disruptors podcast wherever you are listening. We drop new episodes once a week on Thursdays, and we would be so honored if you would share this episode or one of our earlier episodes with someone you think could benefit from learning about the conservation space from other happy disruptors like Steve.
Cool.
All right, Hannah, we'll have you do your
Okay, and I
reveal.
have not had these. I've been to the fair twice and I haven't had it yet. So I love the lobster dog from Destination Grill.
Yes.
It's a corn dog, but it's actually lobster instead of the corn dog.
Delicious.
And then the peppermint ice cream sandwich with the chocolate cookie.
Yum. I've not had that.
Oh, it's delish.
Delicious.
What's
My
yours?
stomach is growling at my beautiful drawing. The deep fried turkey leg. Steve, I cannot recommend this one enough.
My wife would like the turkey leg.
It's like the size of your head, and I'm not really a big turkey fan, but I will eat a deep fried turkey leg.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right.
I feel like we need to add. What about you guys?
Oh yeah, Aki. How about you? What's your favorite Iowa State Fair food?
I think the from pork producers.
This pork chop.
Oh, I can't think of it right now.
We're putting you on the spot.
But yeah.
I want to try. So my friend does the bacon ranch egg rolls.
Oh, yeah, those are good.
Yum.
Didn't get to try it last year, so I'm gonna try it.
That sounds amazing. Yum. How about you, Hannah?
The Iowa pork producers have like a picnic in a cup where it's like coleslaw and beans
Oh,
and it's just
yeah.
like layered and it's delicious because you get like 5 meals in one cup.
That sounds delicious.
I've never even tried that. I've never
Man,
even
I
seen
haven't
that.
either.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, if you're not hungry yet, unfortunately, this probably will air after the fair is over. So you're going to have to wait until next year.
Next
but,
year.
Thanks so much for tuning in. And Steve, we'll have to have you back.
Of course. Thank you.